welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Now, some people have already been doing that. Here are some of the pictures that you've sent in to us. Now, let's begin with this one from Ogun State, showing the scene of an accident involving a diesel tanker and a car. The driver was said to have died instantly, leaving behind a wife and 2 children. Next is this set of images showing residents scooping fuel from the road after the fuel tanker accident. Now, this is a dangerous act and should be discouraged. Similar to that is this photo from Bini, the Edo State capital, showing the scene of an accident. Our eyewitness reporter says a car rammed into a shop near the road, but thankfully no life was lost. Right, thanks a lot for sending in all those pictures, and we do expect more from you. Now, our lead story has been on the president's visit to the U.S., and he had several meetings with U.S. officials, one of which was a town hall meeting at the United States Institute for Peace, where he gave a strong address. Now, to review the president's visit to the United States, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a professor of international law, Professor Aki Oyebode. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the news at 10.
You're welcome.
Let's start off from Mr. Femi Adesina's rating. Let's put it that way. And he says that the visit was a roaring success on every side. Did you see it that way?
Well, I think Nigeria has moved a long way from when then President, was nearly overwhelmed by what he saw at the White House. We've also moved further from when President was commended for his fedora. We have a president that went to the White House with a lot of verve, who was commended for his personal integrity, his ramrod honesty and transparency. And so for me, I think the Americans were happy to receive President Buhari. And Buhari, I think, earned kudos from all and sundry for his performance. So I think it's a win-win situation. The Americans won and Nigerians won.
People are still talking about the speech that he gave at the town hall meeting. Then there's some key aspects of his speech. He talked about security and foreign partnerships. Let's just look at a bit of what he said in terms of allegations of human rights abuses by our forces. And he says that that's denied us access to strategic weapons that we need to fully engage in this war. Is that the problem that we have?
No, I don't think so. In military confrontations, there are usually excesses in terms of combating the enemy. But what happens is if you now allow impunity to prevail for those who have perpetrated crimes against humanity or war crimes or even genocide to go unpunished, is impunity, I think, that the world has a distaste for. As we speak, I think some of our soldiers are being court-martialed either for acts or omissions at the front against Boko Haram. So I don't think Nigeria can be accused of treating with askance whatever violations or whatever impropriety was committed by our troops. But I think the Americans looked for a pretext not to sell us much-needed material. Nigerians were looking for helicopter gunships, and the Americans were not too confident about the powers that were in Nigeria then. So Nigeria had to seek succor from elsewhere, specifically Russia. But my information now is that the Americans are prepared and willing to sell us Apache helicopters and other material and offer to even train and equip the Nigerian military so that we can have a proper handle over the Boko Haram insurgents.
What has changed? How come they're doing that now?
I think the persona of Buhari. Buhari is a graduate of a U.S. War College. He's a tested general. It's not an academic general. He has hands-on experience of military confrontation. And I think the Americans, especially President Obama, believe that President Buhari was a man he could do business with. His antecedents and what have you, and the fact that he wants to raining on corrupt Nigerians.
I was going to get to that. He spoke about zero tolerance for corruption and leading by example. But a lot of people have said that except we are able to plug where ill-gotten wealth is coming from, the visit might not be as fruitful as we hope it to be. Well, what would you like to see?
You just mentioned Femi Adesina's announcement that that Buhari was going to go after corrupt elements in the last administration. And jolly well and good. People believe that those who were found wanting in terms of malfeasance should answer to their misdeeds. And there are humongous sums that are said to be salted away in secret vaults, in tax havens, and what have you. All Buhari needs to do is to present the facts of the loot that has been salted away. And I'm sure that the countries concerned will oblige by repatriating the stolen loot and believing that this time around, whatever is repatriated will not vanish into some holes.
That's another point, because
Yes.
a lot of people have said with the other loot that was recovered, what happened?
Well, it's the background, the antecedents of President Buhari himself as an incorruptible. That is the visage that he has. And you remember what President Obama said? He was a man of tremendous personal integrity. So I think the body language of President Obama gels very well with that of President Buhari in terms of saving Nigeria from itself, because we've been saddled with all manner of leaders that have not demonstrated tremendous respect for integrity, for probity, and for transparency. It seems President Buhari has caught a different image of Nigerians. And in terms of even business, I remember President Obama saying Nigerians have some of the best businessmen around. So I believe that just as there's an opportunity for American business people to try to chase profits in Nigeria, Nigerian businessmen too should exploit the prospects of the African Equal Opportunities Act. In other words, the Growth and Opportunities Act of the United States government presents a vista for Nigerian businessmen to export goods if they meet, of course, the standards of the American market.
Let's look at another point. He spoke about the sub-regional efforts to tackle terrorism. He told them that he had been to Chad. We have $21 million being released. But then again, you saw the attack in Cameroon. Are you happy with the coordination or with what you see in terms of the sub-regional efforts to tackle Boko Haram?
Well, you must recognize that one of the first things that President Buhari did was to solicit and elicit continued support from our neighbors, which had not really been on the same page with Nigerians in terms of the Boko Haram imbroglio. But by visiting countries like Chad and throwing hands of fellowship to Niger and even Cameroon. You know, we had a delegation from Cameroon visiting Aso Rock. So I believe what President Buhari is trying to do is to encircle the Boko Haram and use maybe a pincer approach in order to snuff them out of their rat holes, as it were. Once we can effectively construct a different scenario in terms of the suppressing insurrection and terrorism, I believe Nigeria will be moving very close towards putting Boko Haram in check.
Okay, looking forward now, what should we expect to see in the very, very near future to be able to convince us that this visit has been successful, beyond the talk now?
Well, I think the Americans will walk the talk by presenting, as I said, military material and equipment and effecting training, much needed training, manpower development for our soldiers, and also diplomatic support. You know, President Buhari was invited to the group of 7. For a long time, Nigeria was not welcome in such circles. And he rose to the occasion. And I think he enjoys the bonhomie and the goodwill of the West, the international community. I think what we now expect is greater solidarity and support for the Nigerian effort in order to put a lid on Boko Haram. Boko Haram has become a terrible scourge to the Nigerian state. And it is my belief that the main thing that we're going to gain from this visit is, for instance, the provision of military assistance by way of drones. The Americans have drones located in Niger. I want to believe that they will now put those drones in action to remove the scourge and those who are perpetrating atrocities against the peace and goodwill of Nigeria. That will be the first thing. The other things, of course, trade, investment, and then political collaboration and rapprochement with the Nigerian government.
All right, Professor of International Law, Professor Akin Oyebode, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10 tonight.
You're most welcome.
We move on now. The National Economic Council meeting is yet to get the report of its committee set up to probe the accounts of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. At its inaugural meeting last month, the council had set up a committee consisting of governors of Kaduna, Akwa Ibom, Edo and Gombe to look at the books of the NNPC, the excess crude account and the Federation account. After a meeting presided over by the Vice President Yemi Oshibajo, the Governor Akiwumi Ambode told journalists that the council is hoping to get the report of the committee at next month's meeting. Now, the Nigeria Air Force is re-strategizing for air combat in renewed effort to clamp down on insurgents in the northeast and deal with security challenges in the Niger Delta. Now, that's coming from the Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, during an operational visit to the Air Force Base in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. He says everything must be done to put a stop to the killing of innocent civilians, especially women and children.
We are doing everything possible to evaluate what has been done in the past with a view to re-strategizing so that we'll have a very effective force to deal with all the security challenges, both in the Niger Delta and in the Northeast. What we are trying to do now is to look at our processes. What have we been doing in the past? What do we need to do more in order to be more effective? And that is why this is the second unit I'm visiting since I assumed office.
Now, 5 unidentified gunmen have kidnapped King Otobo-Tekere, the paramount ruler of Tambra community in Bayelsa State. The 90-year-old was taken away from his palace earlier today. The men fired gunshots into the air, forcing many to scamper to safety before he was taken away. This development led to a peaceful demonstration and a barricade of major roads leading to Tambra community. Some of the angry youths of the community thereafter called on the government to intervene. When the News at 10 returns, bittersweet half-year financials pour in from banks and consumer goods companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That will be on Business News. Please stay with us.